everyone. So my name is Francois Martelet, CEO of NetScientific. Perhaps a few words about myself. Background is medical doctor plus an MBA. I spent about 25 years in the healthcare industry, 18 years in big pharma organization in the US, in Europe, and then moved to very small companies, startup in the US and in Denmark. So 2 jobs as a CEOs successfully exited through M&A. So tonight I will brief you about NetScientific. This is a disclaimer, another version of Mike's. Right, so NetScientific is an IP commercialization group of companies. So that means a technology commercialization and an investment business focused on healthcare and healthcare only. So what we are doing, we are investing in early stage, game-changing technologies with a large commercial potential. And how do we do it? We do it through an approach from 3 angles: therapeutics, digital health, and diagnostics. As you could see from the slide, we have a presence in the US, quite a large one. We have 4 companies in the US and only 1 in the UK, in Belfast. As of today, we have a core portfolio of 5 companies. We have also what we call a kind of a minority portfolio consisting of loans in the same sector that we don't manage. But for these 5 companies, we have a majority shareholdings, except 1 in therapeutics, PDS Biotech. And we still believe that we have the fortune to have major investors supporting us, such as Woodford and Invesco. All right, so here is the slide about our board and the management team. You can probably recognize Sir Richard Sykes, former chairman and CEO of Glaxo Wellcome, still currently very much involved in healthcare through his chairmanship of the NHS Trust in London, and also chairman of the Royal Institute. In Postlethwaite, our CFO, a strong background in RX. Barry Wilson, former head of Medtronic International and also BMS Europe, and Professor Stephen Smith, former CEO of Imperial College. So what we all share is a strong track record in commercial. So we all have not only developed drugs, but also put them on the market successfully. And myself, I was involved in the launch of about 15 oncology drugs throughout my 25 years of experience, and I'm quite proud to say that I was part of teams who put half of those drugs, they're now blockbusters. At the same time, we have also a set of well-known advisors for each of our companies. So this is what we did choose, and not having an advisory board at the corporate level, but really at each of our subs. Okay, so how does that work? So basically, we take IP from various institutions, mostly from our network, but not necessarily from foundations and universities in which we have a relationship with. And throughout the chain, the value creation chain, as you could see from here, so we take the IP, we source, so we assign a project manager for one particular project through what we call the sponsor research agreements. And then if that works, that means if we achieve the milestones that we need to achieve, then we continue the funding process. So that means we accelerate. And at that point in time, we will appoint heavyweight, very experienced CEOs to run those businesses. And I'm pleased to say that I've been working now for the last 3 years with this portfolio. So the portfolio is ready to be commercialized or has already entered the commercialization space for most of those companies. And then obviously, the final route is either an exit, either through a Series A or B or a trade sale. So this is our business model that we believe is fairly much capital efficient. Okay, I'm pleased to report that we've been able to raise about £30 million over the last 3 years. All our investors have been following up, and we've been also able to attract new investors throughout this journey. Okay, a few words perhaps about what has been done, because when I joined the company 3 years ago, clearly we had a bunch of companies in healthcare, in agri-tech, almost everywhere. And then we really had to refocus the company on healthcare. That means divesting a few. That means also stopping investing in others. And we did choose, so those 6 companies that we have been working with, we had to stop only one of them, GlucoSense, because we could not replicate the initial set of data. But I have to say that we were very pleased to have our first exit last year in a company called Oncoverse, which is a spin-out of one of our companies in the US in artificial intelligence with a 3x cash return. So it's not too bad for a company of our size, which is around of a market cap of around 40 million pounds on the AIM market in London. And here is a kind of a journey, appointing key individuals running those companies. We have a very simple business model. They all report to the board, and I'm the chairman of those companies. And as I said earlier, the important piece is that we do have a commercial ready pipeline of companies. Okay, so here is our portfolio. So 4 companies in the US, and out of 4, so we have 3 in diagnostics. So Glycotest is in liver cancer. Vortex is a cancer circulating cell companies. Praxis in Belfast, a medical diagnostic company in respiratory. Wanda in artificial intelligence. And PDS, our immuno-oncology company, in the US as well. So those companies, 3 are at an early stage of commercialization, as you could see from the slides, and Glycotest late stage clinical, and PDS early stage clinical moving into phase 2B. And as you could see from here, we all have the majority shareholding in those companies. Okay, now a few words about each of those companies, not too many, otherwise you will be probably overwhelmed. But let's talk about Glycotest. Glycotest, hepatocellular carcinoma is one of the major healthcare issues not only in the US, but also in Asia, like in China, for instance. And liver cancer is, as of today, the 5th major cause of death in the US, and will be the first cause of early death by 2020. So that does show you the importance of liver cancer and the fact that it's a multi-billion dollars market. So we have identified a set of biomarkers coming out of the University of Drexel in the US that identified at an early stage liver cancer. And this is the beauty of this test that doesn't have any competitor on the marketplace. We have the ability to detect early on the level of fucose. So through a simple blood test, we can detect in your blood your level of fucose. If you have a high level of fucose in your blood, it does indicate that you have a higher probability of developing down the road either a fibrosis or a cirrhosis and a liver cancer. And as of today, the management of liver cancer includes a blood test, and this blood test is alpha-fetoprotein, but it's not specific nor sensitive enough. So we have developed this test in the US and in Asia as well, that is very specific and very sensitive as well with regard to the detection of early-stage liver cancer. And why is it so important? It's because early-stage liver cancer can be cured through surgery. Okay. In terms of data, we have now about 500 patients enrolled in 3 different studies. 2 were done in the US, 1 in China recently, and we are in a process to close a Series A with a company in China, and we do expect to end this process fairly soon. What is important as well to mention is that HCC is a hepatocellular carcinoma panel. We have also other panels, so other biomarkers for other types of liver diseases, such as cholangiocarcinoma. Okay, so that's glycotest. Now let's move now to cancer circulating cell. The management of cancer does include, obviously, biopsies. And this is not very convenient. So here we are talking about liquid biopsy. So through a very simple blood test, you can isolate, detect, enumerate cancer circulating cells coming out of the primary tumor here. You see, cancer cells are shred into the bloodstream, and then they stay over there, and they basically lead to secondary tumors. So what we have developed through a technology called microfluidics is through this chip. This is the chip you could see here. And then through an airflow through the blood, we can isolate into those micro chambers cancer circulating cells, while the white blood cells and the red blood cells are passing through. So this is really the next generation of cancer circulating cell. Okay, this is the machine. So through a very simple blood test, you put your blood test into the cartridge, you put the cartridge into the machine, and the results are after a few hours, less than 2 hours. And the features of this technology is that you have a very high level of purity. The cells are intact, and that's very important because on intact cells, you can do cell culture, drug testing, and this is a great advantage compared to another technology that is on the marketplace as of today in the UK. So we really have also a very high efficiency rate in terms of recovery compared to a technology that is on the marketplace today. So Vortex Ready is the next generation of cancer circulating cell company. We are obviously building the inventory. We are placing the instrument into a number of different R&D centers, especially in the US. And we are working with a number of different indications, prostate, breast, lung, in order to reach the FDA Class 2 level that will allow us to be a biomarker, what we call a proprietary clinical assay indication by indication. Another company that we have in our portfolio is Praxis. It's a medical diagnostic company in respiratory detecting COPD. Because when you have COPD, basically you don't want to take so many antibiotics. And this is very important. So we have developed what we called a needle stick using the sputum of the patient. And then through a qualitative readout, you can detect, you as a patient, if you have infection or a superbug that require to take antibiotics or not. So this is an important aspect because then you can reduce the level of resistance and provide a better quality of life for the patient. This is the immunoassay test. So we have two versions, the immunoassay test, detecting active neutrophil elastase, and the needle stick, which is a point-of-care test. Okay, we have developed a number of clinical trials that are ongoing now with National Jewish Health in the US, which is the major respiratory hospital in the US, in order to also incorporate this as a biomarker. And we have appointed Digenix as a sales distributor for the needle stick. We're looking for a partner for this company, more muscles, in order to commercialize the needle stick in Europe. So all in all, we at NetScientific, and I hope I was able to demonstrate this to you, we have a portfolio of companies that are ready to be commercialized. We are either working through a Series A process for a number of companies, such as Glycotest, or a trade sale in order to generate cash, obviously, in order to refill the portfolio and distribute dividends to our shareholders. I mean, clearly, out of those 5 companies, Glycotest is in a late stage from a clinical standpoint. Vortex is mid-stage clinical. Praxis is a commercial stage. Wanda, I haven't spoken about that one. It's a company in artificial intelligence. And that one is it's a clinical decision support tool aiming at reducing the rehospitalization rate of patients with chronic diseases. Because obviously, if you have a chronic disease in the US, if you are re-hospitalized after 1 month of discharge, the healthcare provider has to pay a penalty, which is about $15,000, which is huge, obviously. So we have developed a set of wearables, including the electronic health records. Everything is transmitted wirelessly to what we call the machine learning. And then the information is sent back to the caregiver, whether the patient has to be back to the hospital or not. So this is this company called Wanda, also in the US. And we are working with HRS, which is a Health Research Solution, a company based in Chicago. We have about 500 patients involved into this study. We are targeting about 1,000. And recently we published an RNS saying that we have a reduction rate of rehospitalization of these patients by 44%, so great achievement. And I think that's what I wanted to tell you.
So any questions, anybody? Gentle, two. So one there and then 2 rows back after.
Hello. What effect does the downward pressure applied by the American administration have on the value of your assets in America?
Right. So far, because we are mainly in either in diagnostics or in artificial intelligence, we are not that impacted by the regulations or the new ones coming up in therapeutics, especially for reimbursement, for instance. That does target more the companies that have drugs in cancer, for instance, obviously. We're not that impacted yet.
Next question to you.
Hello, I'm aware of another company that's involved in the liquid biopsy for CTCs. I wondered how competitive you felt the marketplace was and what the competitive advantage of Vortex was.
It's Angle, isn't it, I think? Is it Angle?
Yeah. You can even quote the name. Yes, it's okay. Vortex is the next generation of liquid biopsy company. The benefits of these technologies are unmatched in terms of purity. Okay? What is important is to have the ability to extract intact cells, because on intact cells you can do a number of things, such as drug testing, cell culture, proteomics. And that's very important. And so this other company doesn't have this ability, and not to that extent for sure. The other piece is that we can extract through the chambers more cancer circulating cells than any other company as well. Now, to be fair, we are slightly behind in terms of clinical trials. So we need to continue initiating and performing clinical trials, indication by indication. But this is the next generation technology. It's unmatched. We presented that at the American Cancer Society 18 months ago, AACR, and all the opinion leaders were coming to us and they wanted to have our machine, you know. So no, it's really fantastic.
I think Angle bought their own business, which has a machine, hasn't they? I think quite recently, I think. Angle present quite often here at these events. Any more questions? Gentleman just down here.
Could you tell me if you're going for growth as opposed to profit? And if it's profit, when do you expect to be in profit?
No, that's a good question. We are still a development stage company, obviously, although we have just entered the commercialization space with a number of our companies. It does take some time, okay? So I can't give you any precise time frame when we will be a profitable company. it all depends on the sequencing of the events, such as trade sales, Series A. Obviously, we expect that to happen within the next 12 to 18 months. Now, some of the money of the cash generated will be used to refill the portfolio, so to acquire new IPs, build new companies, and at the same time, we certainly expect to return money to our shareholders. But 12 to 18 months will be the kind of a time frame where significant events will happen for the company.
Lady just there.
Just to follow up on that question, do you have in the back of your mind what that split is, the reinvestment split versus payout?
IP commercialization companies are, by nature, they are not cash generating. Okay. So, however, because we are envisioning a number of exits, trade sales, Series A, B, C, co-investment, that is the goal of those companies. But I cannot give you any time frame. That will be unfair and untrue. But this business model, if I look at our market cap, we have a market cap of about 40 million pounds. There is a consensus for the analysts telling us that we are undervalued by 44%. So, for instance, Vortex, we had a term sheet I cannot disclose with whom, nor the number, but we had a term sheet of a triple digit. Okay, so that just gives you an indication that by having a successful exit of one of our company's portfolio, it will outweigh completely the whole value of the whole group.
Do you think you return as a special dividend? Are these special purpose vehicles?
I can't commit to any numbers, obviously, because where we are as a company. But certainly, this is part of the business model, no doubt.
In the markets you're operating in, can competitors coexist, or is it a winner-take-all deal?
So your question is, what are our competitors?
Basically, will the market be dominated by the best diagnostic test, or can you exist with a different percentage share?
For glycotests, there is nothing. Okay, so we are unique. Vortex, there is Angle, but we are the next generation technology. So we are slightly behind, but we're trying to catch up with the initiation of a number of trials. Praxis, there is no single competitor. But that's the nature of this business. In this business, it has to be game-changing, unique, we're trying to, or at least first in the market, first in class.
Your shareholding is 88% held by fund managers, 12%, I presume, by management. Is that correct?
Sorry?
88% is held by funds of your shares, and is 12% held by management?
We do have,
and the public?
Yes. We have a limited float of around less than 20%, yes. It's good and bad. It's good because we have stability. We are really backed by Woodford, Invesco, very significant shareholders on the long term. And at the same time, we are very much dependent on a free float, which is fairly limited. Therefore, 10,000 shares will make the difference in terms of the share price.
Good and bad sometimes.
So obviously, but I think that in this kind of business model, you invest for the future. It's not an in and out go very quickly. So there is some time frame, a couple of years, 18 months, But clearly, the potential of each of these companies, as I said earlier, clearly outweigh what is currently the value of the group.
Mm. Would you take on another asset before you sold an asset?
Yes, so that's the plan, because obviously, we still need to fund those assets, as we have the majority shareholding in these companies, and we are waiting for one big event, a trade sale, in order to continue filling it, the portfolio.
Great. Anybody else got any questions? No? Perhaps I thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.